us. Let us have show notes. There was show notes.
Mm-hmm. Ah, perfect.
Perfection.
Da.
Okay, welcome to Depths of Gaming episode 29.
Greetings, comrades! How are you today?
Indeed.
You cannot respond, I forgot.
Yeah, they are not able to, yeah. Not ever since we chained them up to the basement.
Oh.
Yeah. We really should, put air holes there. That's the next project. Anyway.
Listen, if they didn't betray the glory of communism, they would have air holes. Otherwise, they don't deserve it.
I'm sure that meant something. Okay.
Yes.
Stellaris Synthetic Dawn was released, and holy shit, was it a win for Paradox?
Stellaris segment, yes.
Yeah, Stellaris segment. We're going right into it this time, as opposed to the previous 10 times we've gone right into it. About Stellaris, of course. It's usually our first segment. Yeah, because I am a fanboy. Despite always talking shit about Wiz.
I'm talking shit about the Paradox in general.
Oh, I like Paradox as a company most times. I just like to give Wiz shit. And let's see how. So, as with all giant major patches, there were some issues. I got ahead of myself. The first big thing, the reason why it was a huge win for Paradox is not only was Stellaris itself near the top of the Steam charts, but all the DLC was up in the Steam charts too, especially Synthetic Dawn. A lot of people bought that.
Ah, yes, indeed. Because who doesn't want your friendly AIs to take over and destroy the entire universe?
Absolutely. So it was all discounted, of course, except for Synthetic Dawn, which was $10, and that's great because, as far as we know, that chart is speculated to be entirely about money raked in. They will not tell us how the Steam charts work. It's just that's the running theory. It's entirely about purchases and dollars.
Of course.
So if that's true, then Paradox made a lot of money.
I'm sure they did. There's a way to basically get... making DLCs is very profitable to begin with. And as much as I disagree with the practice of DLCs,
well,
I have to admit that it works.
Paradox does it the way that I would think that I would personally want my DLCs to be, which is alongside a free patch. Is the whole game gets better when the DLC comes out. It's just if you buy the DLC, there are a few more features that you get on top of that. Like, Synthetic Dawn came out with the Chapek patch, and that fixed so much. I mean, it broke a lot of the builds that people were accustomed to, but that's fine. Fuck them. I mean, seriously, I get the idea of why pacifists used to get gigantic Unity bonuses, but it incentivized this crazy pacifist playstyle of turtling until the late game and then doing blitzkriegs. And now the the Rogue Servitor's robotic playstyle is kind of the Unity spam playstyle now. And
Oh, I see.
that's awesome because you don't have to be pacifist to do it.
Indeed, I believe that when I was playing with General the other day, he was actually getting a shit ton of Unity with his what is his build like?
Oh, the temples, yeah. Well,
yeah.
what they did is what you used to be able to do is if you were playing a spiritualist, you could build a temple on your planets, on each of your planets, the same way you could build an Autochthon monument. Mm-hmm. However, they made it so instead of getting both of them, you just get the temple. However, they buffed the shit out of it.
Yeah, the basic temple gives you like 3.
The basic
Unity,
temple gives you 3, which is...
And the upgraded one gives you 6.
It gives you 6, and I think the top tier gives you 9.
Yeah,
and on top of that, it gives you the spiritualist ethics attraction that it always gave you. And what this comes out to is, instead of spiritualists being weaker for removing the Autochthon monument, they actually got stronger.
Yeah.
Because not only is the temple as good as having both of those buildings at max level combined, but that frees up another tile.
Yay!
So there you go. And stuff like that. Every single playstyle saw a few quality of life changes. Hive minds, what they did specifically for hive minds is they changed a lot of the events so that they made more sense, because this was kind of the Gestalt consciousness update where they fixed everything that was kind of wacky with it. And for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, Gestalt consciousness is what they renamed the hive mind ethos.
It's basically the same thing as hive mind. It just sounds more fancy. Gestalt
Consciousness. What it basically instead of only hive minds being that, now machine empires share that with them. And this might even we might even get more Gestalt consciousness later. We might get more regular empire types later. What I'm hoping for is the next DLC is just civics and race traits. Just nothing but fucking 100 of the fucking things.
Civics up to us.
Civics and race traits, because I feel that that's where the game is stagnant right now. The civics are all so common sense that you end up picking the same 3 or 4 of them. Same thing with traits. For me.
Unless you're doing like a role play, I guess.
Unless you're doing a role play, yeah. What I found myself using a lot after Chapek was syncretic evolution, because
in order to get the
it's the second race. You start with the second race, and you're kind of burning a civic, yet you're not at the same time. Because
you're getting much more out of it.
Because the second race automatically starts with a better version, with this like specific version of proles called serviles that's even stronger, and they get strong.
Ooh, I see. Basically, you can customize your other.
Yeah, you're able to customize that now.
Yeah, your other species, so that they fulfill all the shortcomings of your main species.
Right. The common build right now is to have your syncretic species be your miners, and to have your main species be the researchers. That's been a fairly popular build, and it's very strong if you're a materialist authoritarian now, because not only can they use robots or synthetics as slave labor now, but there is a new um, what's it called? It's the level of life quality. There's a new academic privilege one where they create even more science.
Oh, I see. Yes, yes, yes. I got that on my species. Basically, the top usually was until the new release was the Utopian Abundance or something like that.
Yeah, Utopian Abundance used to be the most expensive one. Now it's academic privilege.
Actually, no, it's equivalent.
Well,
However,
what they did in
mhm.
1.8.1 is they reduced the costs of the other ones. The consumable costs.
The way that I've experienced it is that it costs the same. It doesn't give you the happiness bonus, but it does give you the boost to all sciences.
Right. Was it like 10%?
Yeah, 10%.
Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like having all of the specific, or no, that's like having intelligent, I think. Holy crap, that's good. Stack that with intelligent and a research specialty, and you have like the perfect research spam empire.
Well, that's what I was doing.
Well, yeah, and that's. I still think you should, instead of trading those minerals with me, you should have built fucking ships.
That wouldn't help me.
Yes, it would have.
No, I did not. I had no. I had my fleet limit topped out. I was not able to make any more.
Then more planets, more upgrade the spaceports.
I was surrounded by tomb worlds. There was no way for me to expand.
Were you materialist? Put robots on them.
I did. It was. I cannot send robots to colonize other worlds. I first have to send my own people.
You can with droids.
I was not playing droids. I was playing.
No, not as machine empires. I'm saying that the second level of robot tech can colonize.
I didn't have that yet. I got it right as I was basically wiped out.
If you like to use robots, then I would suggest getting the Mechanist Civic, because that lets you start with that technology and a couple robots on your planet.
Maybe.
I've tried it before. I've liked it. I think it also gives you a 5% less robot upkeep too. So it also gives you a perk. But leading into the next thing, they did an opt-in patch 1.8.1, and what you do is you go into the Steam library, right-click Stellaris, and you opt in for the beta. Yeah. And they made a few fixes. See, one of the people we played with had an interface issue, but the more I think about it, the more I think that was just their computer and not related to the patch whatsoever. Because
I see.
They supposedly restarted their computer and then tried to come back and they had the same problem, so whatever. And the opt-in patch lets they let cyborgs, you're able to make it so cyborgs can breed and stuff like that. There's a handful of changes that they make that fix things. They reduce the cost of a few lifestyles, stuff like that.
It breaks a lot of things, so don't think it's all fixes.
Yeah, it's not all fixes. It makes a few other things kind of weird, but it does fix a lot of the issues that Chapek introduced.
The best way for us to basically deal with this is basically to wait until it's going to get official update. Yeah.
I mean, the next update for the beta branch is going to be good for sure.
Yeah.
So, in last Thursday, Wiz, my favorite person in the whole wide world, announced that no new information in Dev Diaries would appear until late October, while posting new information. Hypocritical Swedish son of a bitch. So he had this picture that was like a giant cluster of defense stations. So he's basically teasing like defense station networks is probably what they're going to end up being called, but people are just calling them defense station fleets right now.
Okay.
And that's not completely unheard of. That's basically how the enigmatic fortress works.
That's basically the Deep Space Nine kind of deal, right?
Well, no, that's where you have like a big defense station, and then around it are smaller defense stations.
Oh, okay. That makes that's different.
Because that's what the picture had. Is it had like a fortress, and then around it was a bunch of defense panels.
Mm-hmm. It's probably something late game.
Possibly, because the biggest thing about the defense stations is that they're garbage.
They're good, because I remember General crushed himself against one.
Well, they can be, because the AI only uses them in one way. They will put the jump scrambler on them, so that when you jump to the system, you're forced to fight the station, and usually the starport and whatever fleet is there.
Yes. So
it can be good if you do what Jerry did and continue jumping to the one station you shouldn't be jumping to. Like he did. Retard.
Hey,
because he was
he
was able to see where their fleet was, for fuck's sake. Anyone else would have been able to jump to a different station and go, oh, well, now I can beat you.
Not all of us are strategic masterminds.
How dare all of us not be mini Sun Tzus? How dare he? I talk shit about Jerry, but I've said as much to his face by now. I love Jerry, but what he did was pretty dumb.
Jerry is awesome.
What he did was pretty dumb. And it's okay.
There was probably a reason for him to do that.
I'm sure he had a reason, but good for you, you're wrong. The other thing is, I was giving a buddy of mine shit recently because he was doing something dumb. Either way, because fortresses as they are in game are good because you can get them to about 10k strength, and so you're able to stop lesser empires from messing with you with military stations. That's the cool part. The bad part is if you're finding anyone remotely near your own level, they're horrible.
Yeah, I could see that. They are basically a way to slow down the enemy approach.
Right.
Buy you enough time so that your main fleet can jump in and clean up.
Absolutely.
We were talking about those bongs. You should probably not smoke when everyone
thinks it's a fucking bong. No one heard bubbling. It's a pipe.
Hell, you can always mute yourself and prevent us from hearing it.
There was one time where I tried to mute Discord when I was streaming and it broke everything.
Oh, I see.
Besides, Drunken Peasants spends like half of all stream time smoking a pipe, so shut the fuck up.
Hell, listen, if he was choking on the smoke as much as you do, I would...
I'm sorry, what were you saying, Christian? So, yeah, fuck whiz. Wayland Games picks up Dystopian Wars and the other original Spartan Games APs.
Yes, from computer gaming to figure gaming.
Indeed, we've gone full circle. All these squares make a circle. So, Wayland Games is a British miniatures retailer, and they also design in-house as well. They picked up Wild West Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
And
that one is still green.
And so in this purchase they got Dystopian Wars, Uncharted Seas, and Firestorm Armada. Mm-hmm. And the thing about Uncharted Seas is that game's just fucking dead at this point.
I guess they could breathe new life into
So
it.
I'm hoping their plan is to breathe new life in it, because they have bought a license that no one was using. But here's the thing.
I'm sure there are players of that game.
I'm sure they do, but I'm sure those same players went to Dystopian Wars. But the thing is, Uncharted Seas, it's a good-looking game. It's just that Spartan Games is terrible at writing rules manuals.
I could see that. They definitely have problems with editing, with good practices for their manuals.
Absolutely.
Because some of them that I saw PDFs of are downright weird in some of the mistakes that
Dystopian Wars rulebooks up to 2.5 were famously awful. I welcome you to go to the official Dystopian Wars website and look at the 2.0 rulebook. It is awful. Giant paragraphs with randomly bolded words and red and blue splattered all over the fucking place. And every rule is like paragraphs upon paragraphs of fluff and information that you don't need. And then you look at 2.5, and it's all beautiful bullet points that get right to the fucking point.
Good.
So 2.5 is amazingly playable. However, they released it about 2 months before they went under.
So not many people managed to enjoy it.
Right. Plus, they didn't release it for free like they should have.
Mm-hmm.
What they should have done is went, here is our rule set, because they already started migrating everything else on the website to 2.5. It's just they decided not to release it for free because they thought for sure everyone would want to pay them for it. I don't know. They owed everyone so much money that they just refused to do what was necessary to save their games.
I guess from their point of view, they were doing everything that they saw as fitting to be to actually help their game.
Oh, absolutely. That was their intent, but their intentions were based on how the industry worked in the fucking 1600s. Like,
yes, because there were a lot of figure war games in 1600s.
Absolutely. We all know Wild West Bill Hickok's super engine stabber 9 million or whatever the fuck he called it.
Of course.
We're just saying words at this point. So yeah, they had a very dated viewpoint on how the industry worked. Is they had a lot of models where you had to buy box sets in order to get the models. And they figured, well, if you love our game this much, you're going to want to just keep buying these box sets. No, we're fucking not. We want our models. And they made it so you had to buy the box sets to get the The template sheets. You had to buy the box sets to get the tiny flyer token holders for second edition.
Oh, I see.
And so I have all these tiny flyer tokens, but not enough of the little things to put them in.
So yeah, basically they mismanaged a little bit.
And the other example I have is I have a ton of medium and large size units. However, each army only has 2 kinds of small units. One of them is bases of small tanks, which in realistic terms are regular tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Or to scale, they're regular tanks, rather.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you say it in human language. And
I don't know human, I just know Polish.
And there's also another kind of small tank that you can get. But the only way to get it is to either buy the box set for the starter army or to buy the Armored Clash box. Which is a whole different fucking edition.
Mm-hmm. So basically what you're saying is that completing an army is incredibly difficult, counterintuitive, and
if there are specific units that you want to spam, you have to pay more.
You know what? That actually makes sense. If you want to basically discourage unit spamming.
Well, to a certain point, except for the way things are priced, it was really easy to spam large and medium-sized units, not small units. Now, to be fair, that's kind of the point. The point is to have the medium and large units. Those are kind of your mainstay. But it shouldn't be this hard to get to get enough of both of your small units to where you can reliably mix it up. Because as it is, you only basically have access to one kind of small unit per army.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're playing Combined Arms, in which case you have whatever other choices you have. Like, I can have my small tanks, and I can also have these little, like, hover ships that float around, too.
Yeah, the Polish cavalry. We have ships, and all of them hover.
That's right. All of the naval ships for Poland are hover vehicles. So I'm really glad about this because Wayland Games saved those IPs.
Yeah, that basically means that you can still play your figure war game.
You don't have to worry about your dystopian war stuff becoming so out of date that no one's going to know what it is.
Mm-hmm. But
there is a but. Wayland Games is a British corporation. So if you're American, continue to get used to being ignored.
Yes, because you do not drink enough tea and your accent is stupid.
So they're probably not going to give a shit about any of us. And we don't know how much they care about the Armored game. We don't know about what they plan on doing for any of their plans. We just know that they have plans and that they're not telling us.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're a corporation, right? Their entire reason for existence is to make money.
Correct.
And if they find that they can make money off of something, they will make more of it. That's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
They obviously bought all those 3 IPs and the company as a whole because they think that they can either use it as an insurance. So when their company goes under, they can use it to negotiate higher prices for their stock, or So basically, IP sitting is what it's called, or they can actually turn a profit on it.
Well, absolutely. When it comes to Uncharted Seas, I think they're to a certain point IP sitting. I mean, now is kind of the ripe time to introduce or to reintroduce a fantasy naval game. Because Warhammer's entered the public consciousness again, despite being destroyed.
Did it?
Remember Age of Sigmar happened?
No, but thanks for reminding me. I tried to push it out of my memory.
Yes, I'm sorry. Welcome back to hell! Oh, guess what I forgot to do?
Press play button.
No, to to move the slide next. Yeah, that's Dystopian Wars.
Live, everyone!
Professionalism! I'm excited. I'm really excited. Hopefully one of these months their support desk gets the fuck back to me. I kind of wish I had thousands of subscribers so that when I send emails to companies, they actually look at what I fucking send. Because I swear, it feels like I get brushed off just by mentioning I don't have viewers.
Well, we have some viewers.
Oh, 5 of them, yeah.
Yeah.
3 of them are you and me.
Yeah, whenever you like your own video, it's a little bit like masturbation.
Yeah, I don't do that. the liking my own things, not the masturbation. I do a lot of that. So, Cuphead was released.
Oh yeah, that game that everybody was talking about because of the controversy.
So there was a little bit of a non-controversy about this game, because I guess there was a gaming journalist that isn't actually that good at video games, and he had no fucking clue how to do this game. He couldn't manage it.
Yep.
Which is funny. It's a simple but hard game.
It is difficult, but if you are, as a gaming journalist, if you are unable to properly play a video game because you are unfamiliar with the industry standards for platforming or whatever, then you probably should not be dealing with the core or hardcore games. You probably should be dealing with the beginner games, like casual games.
I remember...
And maybe talking about the game development as a whole, and not as a... and not reviewing
one of the
a
worst
specific game.
PC Gamer articles of all time was... I think it was reviewing a game called The Italian Job. And the dude was just complaining nonstop about he had no fucking clue about what he was doing because he didn't understand how Google worked. So I remember he infamously ended the article saying, "A big word showed up on the screen saying you're nicked. I had no idea what was happening, so I just turned the game off."
Okay.
And I remember thinking to myself, wow, he gets paid for this. I can do that. Just spew nonsense because I have no clue what I'm doing? Anyone can do that.
This is basically what happens when you are journalist first and the gamer second. And not the other way around. Because in order to be a games journalist, you should be gamer first and journalist second.
Absolutely.
We can, as gamers, we can forgive you if you make a typo in your review, or if it's not written perfectly. But we can't really forgive you if you are shitty at video games.
Yeah, and so I guess this guy didn't really understand how hieroglyphics worked in Cuphead. Because as far as I know, the tutorial is written out in hieroglyphics on signs.
There is English commands plus pictures to help you out. So yeah. And I guess he was basically during the his explanation was when he was trying to justify himself. He said that he was basically faffing about because he wanted to get used to the controls. That's the reason why it took him so long to jump over that tall obstacle, over 4 minutes long. So yeah. I guess that would work as an excuse. But if you were just trying to familiarize yourself with the game, why did you choose that to be the presentation of your skills and your point of view?
Well, absolutely. Right? It's an excuse. It's an excuse for being not that good.
Yeah, and to be fair, you don't have to be amazing at video games in order to review video games.
Absolutely.
However, you have to know your limitations and play up to those limitations. Do not review games that are core or hardcore.
Absolutely.
Review video games that are for the beginners, or focus your writing pieces on the game industry as a whole.
Absolutely. I mean, I knew what Cuphead was about immediately the second I looked it up. It's a hard arcade side-scrolling shoot-'em-up with focus on boss rushes. If you're somehow surprised when the game comes out and you're somehow shocked that this is the game, then you have no real business being a gamer. Or because you have failed in basic gaming journalism.
Yes.
Because we live in a world where you can just look shit up. With no effort.
You can look up a lot of shit, but you cannot look up skill. Some things you just have to get good.
And we're making it sound like like there's some kind of magic to this game. It's really just pressing buttons in a specific order as fast as you can.
Yeah, there's basically the idea of being familiar with the tropes in video games.
It's
like
controller muscle memory. Yeah.
Yeah, like double jump. Basically, whenever you... there are certain design standards that are in platformers. And they are in all platformers. If you look at the design standards, for example, for Windows in Windows operating system, you will always see a specific theme that runs through all of them. You always know that to the top right corner there's going to be an X that closes the window. This is what this reviewer presented on the video was his inability to grasp such concepts in platformer. This is, I think, the best parallel that I can bring up to explain what I mean. But yeah, Cuphead came out. It's awesome. I think that it's an amazing game. Maybe there's nothing innovative in terms of gameplay elements, but there's definitely a beautiful art style that's there to...
It's a love letter to 1980s cartoons. It's the kind of stuff...
40s.
Okay, I see. The reason why I'm gonna continue making that mistake is because that's when I saw that shit. Because what they do is they'd buy all of these 1940s cartoons that they had to pay pennies for, and they could just run it morning after morning.
Mm-hmm. For example, Steamboat Willie, which is the standard, basically the most classic of Disney cartoons, was released, at least according to Wikipedia, in 1928. This is basically the beginning of Disney. After that, it's the 30s and 40s, which basically has this design of all those characters so flowing and being every single part of their bodies being animated and bouncy, and the background being so tactile. I don't know how to better describe it.
Well,
but this
it
is
was
basically
so
the heyday
fluid.
Of animation.
It was so full of energy, and these cartoons were so they just looked so fun and imaginative that they could show you the most messed up things imaginable, and you would not really question it much, or you kids wouldn't start crying when these ghosts and stuff started popping up in the cartoons because they looked so funny and goofy, and they had those stupid smiles to them. And like there's one really early cartoon where it's a pig that essentially goes to hell in a nightmare, and he's a glutton, and so he's like force-fed all this stuff until he goes, I don't want to be a glutton anymore. Like, it's really messed up.
People back then had different sensibilities. Also, cartoons were not really for kids back then. They were for the adults.
Correct.
This is for example, the reason why the Flintstones were advertising cigarettes.
Absolutely. Well, and vitamins and all that. And there's also during the wartime period, there was a series called Private Snafu. Mm-hmm. And what it was about this goofy sailor that kept making the mistakes that you weren't supposed to make as a sailor.
Yeah, they did the same thing for, I think, the Air Force as well.
And the idea being is this guy was showing you why you're not supposed to do these things. Like, don't give the Japs intelligence. Don't give them this. Don't do this. Mm-hmm. Like, the one I remember seeing is where there's this stereotypical Japanese dude in a trench coat and hat with, like, trying to get information from Private Snafu, and then I think he does it, and his ship immediately blows up. Like, yeah, not for kids.
Nope. But still, incredible art style, and I'm very happy that there are people who are ditching the idea that we have to push our graphics hardware further and further, and basically looking back behind themselves, looking what they left behind, and trying to pick up few gems that were are laying behind us, and making something truly beautiful out of them. This is the reason. Cuphead is the reason why games should be considered art.
Indeed, because it's like we keep saying, it's a relatively simple concept. It's just presented so well that it's great. You shouldn't be surprised when you play Cuphead and you go, oh wow, I never knew this was coming. No, you should have known. So, on to answers nobody wanted. Big Bad Woof says, DMing is so hard. I keep seeing posts and replies advising new players to walk before they run, and that, like the title, DMing is hard. Whenever I see new players asking for advice, the refrain is to run a pre-made campaign, rather than to give them actual advice on how to be successful at the game, and they give the rest of their table want to have. I'm honestly curious as to how most of the others here got started, and why so many seem against the start from scratch. Theater of the mind approach. Will they get the rules wrong? Definitely. But they stumble. But will they fumble through their way... Words. Will they fumble their way through combat? Sure. But they will also get to invest in the story they want to tell instead of pretending to care about the Forgotten Realms mythos. I guess this is a kind of vent post, but it seems weird to me that so much of the advice playing pretend boils down to stay inside the lines. You're full of shit.
Primary reason why you should probably, as a GM, start with pre-made campaigns is that you have to have fun. If you're stumbling, if it takes half an hour to go through one round of combat, if it takes you an hour to go through one dungeon puzzle or something like that, it's not fun, neither for you, not for your other players. And more likely than not, if you're just diving in deep, you're probably going to sour the entire experience for yourself and for your players.
Absolutely.
So it's better to start with pre-made campaigns, not because Forgotten Realms is something so awesome that you should start with it. It's because they figured most of this shit out for you, so you don't have to worry about it. So when you play a couple of pre-made campaigns, you have a better feeling for the D&D. Once you get a better feeling for the D&D, you might want to start to dabble with your own homebrew shit.
Something to keep in mind is that a lot of the people that write these adventures are reading the notes of people that have been playing or doing this game longer than you've been alive.
Pretty much.
Like, D&D is an old hobby.
I believe that... when was the first edition of D&D?
I want to say the 60s.
70s?
Late 60s. I'm sure I'll get it here. No, you were right. 1974. It was originally published as a box set in 1974.
But there was a version.
Well, there was
Chainmail.
Chainmail was 1960s.
Yes. Chainmail was basically the beta that they were creating.
Chainmail is like proto D&D. It's a lot of the same game. It's just different.
But these people. So basically, the entire hobby, at least the D&D part of it, started around 70s, and people were. Since then, were trying to figure it out, game test it, to make sure that it's the best game that it possibly can be. They played a player role, all of them. They played the GM role in different kind of flavors, and then they settled on a specific way of playing
what I'm getting at is that with first edition, Gygax was writing adventure after adventure, and then more people started writing adventure after adventure. And so Gygax himself authored the module format. A lot of that was him. I mean, yeah, it's a little different now, but as far as how a module is written is as old as Gygax himself. And he knew his game inside and out. He wrote plot hooks. He wrote room-by-room descriptions. He was able to make you remember a character that showed up at the very beginning of the book. One of the most famous adventures he wrote was the initial Ravenloft adventure that spawned Ravenloft and solidified Strad von Zarovic as a character in D&D. And that
Strad is the vampire
he's
guy,
the
right?
vampire lord, yeah. And the thing about the original Ravenloft adventure is that it starts with you kind of fucking around, and then you can run into a gypsy lady, and if you get your fate read by the gypsy lady, she actually tells you where all the MacGuffins are hidden in the adventure.
Ooh,
so
that sounds fancy.
And not directly, but she gives you hints as to which random spots the MacGuffins are, because that's when it's generated, when you talk to her.
Oh, I see.
So as far as the players know, she's just babbling nonsense, but the GM is actually generating where the MacGuffins are. It's very interesting. So you can run the original Ravenloft a handful of times, and it will be a little different every time.
But there still will be this consistency when it comes to the world, right?
Well, it still ends the same way. It's just where you have to go in the castle changes. And so what we're getting at is we're not saying to run a pre-made campaign because you have to worship the Forgotten Realms. In fact, most people remove all references of the Forgotten Realms out of their adventure when they run it. What we're telling you is you need to read a module and at least attempt to run one, because that is going to teach you the proper structure of running a game.
Basically, think of it as a tutorial for GMs.
Because a lot of DMing is knowing when to play your hand and when to make shit up, when to do this, when to do that.
And making shit up actually requires you to have a lot of pre-learned knowledge about the world.
Absolutely.
You need to know at least. You need to at least develop in yourself a feeling for the enemies, for the mobs, and for all the other creatures, for items that you can reward to players at what time. If you don't have this inner feeling developed properly, you might throw too difficult enemies at your adventure and result in PK. Or it might result in throwing too weak enemies, and that will be boring. There needs to be a balance and a feeling of accomplishment that you have to develop in your players. That makes the game fun. I said that hundreds upon hundreds of times on the show. D&D is all about having fun. And the entire structure of the game, all the rules, they are there to provide challenge and make that challenge fun and fulfilling for you and for players.
Indeed, this notion that you have to stay inside the lines is utter bullshit, because no one does that. The whole point is to innovate and take things in different approaches. When I play adventures, I typically change a few things to make it suit myself.
Yeah, but you have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. Yeah.
And starting with the pre-made modules is probably the best way for you to get into the game and develop all the proper, I would call it savoir-vivre of the D&D.
Indeed. Because, I don't know, it's I get how it can be seen as being told to just conform, but that's really not the moral here. Because the other reason why we say to do this is because there are people like me that did do it the hard way and lost a lot of friends in the process. The thing is, when you fuck up a D&D game, you lose friends. That's just always how it's been with nerds, is when they get really upset, they want to cut off ties.
Yeah, there's nothing worse during that happens during a D&D campaign when someone feels that they are being treated unfairly. And when you're legging it, it's basically the risk that you're running yourself into. Because a person your player will know, read the book, read it one way, you will read it the other way, and probably will not get the same reference, and it will be it will be messy. So better run with the pre-made campaigns.
Right, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a pre-made campaign. You can just pull it. There are resources where you can get ready-built encounters. Because that a lot of running a D&D game is knowing when to balance encounters and when to balance other stuff. And yes, a lot of it's experience, but a lot of it is also just kind of understanding the game. If you understand the game, then you are going to have a better experience DMing. Either way, that's that question, and that's our show.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that we managed to get through that in 1 hour.
Yeah. That happened.
Thank you all guys for listening, and
see
you
you
guys
next
later.
week.